Welcome, 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 welcome back to the show. Wow, it has been such a powerful, full, and soft last few months. Last episode of the show, depending on where you're finding this episode, I really talked about my summer of yes. And thank you so much for everyone that felt that they resonated with some of the stories that I shared of recent travels and, just ways that I was relating to those travels and the things that come forward when you stretch yourself, especially when you stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone. I think that's the thing that I noticed the most. This was my first year of doing a little bit more pleasure travel than I'd been able to do in recent years. And I like really pushing myself to have new experiences. And by new experiences, I don't just mean like, whatever the thing is you signed up for, wherever the place is that you're going to be headed to, but more so like, you know, how can I maximize the energetic potential of this moment, of what's available to me? Everything that we do, that we walk into, is one, by divine design. There's no coincidences. And two, I believe that there's always opportunity to maximize any magic, any potential, any energy that's present in an experience. We can amplify it, we can supercharge it to get even more out of it, more learning or more joy, or we can constrict it. And that's usually when we get a little more closed off. And so we might not be making ourselves available to all of the highest outcomes and all of the possibilities. And ultimately, either way, it's fine. I believe that we'll constantly be getting chances to revisit things, to learn, to grow. But the longer we take to do it, very often the circumstances can become more extreme, more intense, more dire. And also, you just miss the time that you're able to save from a healing or from learning something. So, for instance, when I say that, I mean, say there happens to be a particular pattern in your life in this exact moment. Maybe it's the way that you're dating. Okay, I'll use that as an example because I think this comes up for so many of us throughout our lives. Maybe you are dating in a very misaligned way. You find yourself with the same kind of person, having the same kind of arguments or the same kind of fears, the same kind of pain points in yourself in every relationship. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because at some point you say, God, why does this keep happening to me? Every time I think it's going to be different, how do I keep getting the same kind of person? But when we look at making the shifts as soon as we're made aware of it, right? As soon as you make that kind of admission, it means you're aware that there is something that doesn't feel good that's happening. And with awareness comes responsibility, because then that now means that you are a participant actively and you're a co-creator. So there's power in that, there's influence in that, or there can be further destruction in that, depending on what path you take. Well, when you identify the pattern, and then even when some feelings of defensiveness want to come up, or even when, we can get into patterns of victimization and not necessarily be able to see the role that we're playing in our suffering, there's still opportunity to switch what's happening with awareness, because we get the opportunity to change our behavior and to make a different choice. Change only can happen when different choices are made. If you continue to make the same choice, like if you get that little kind of, I guess what the kids are calling red flags these days, or if you get that little, ping inside that says, oh, this feels familiar, instead of saying, well, I'm going to keep walking to it, maybe it'll be different. Not walking in is probably the choice that could really open up a whole new world for you. That starts your journey as a spiritual scientist. That starts your journey as someone that is willing to experiment and make different choices in order to ideally receive outcomes that may feel better or be more aligned. So when you're able to make that choice faster, you save time. So for instance, again, If you notice you have this particular pattern, say with dating, and maybe you notice that pattern for the first time at 25, but you don't make any different choices at 25, well, you'll keep repeating that pattern until you do. It's not time that changes circumstance. It's only choice making. It's personal decisions and changed behavior. So if you don't make that change at 25, you may still be aware of it and every time notice how much you dislike the experience of dating. But you'll keep having that experience in different packages with different people. There might be some slight variations, but it'll continue. And I think it's important to know that there is not a judgment for yourself that needs to be present if you've continued these patterns. It's why we're here. It's why we're alive. It's the opportunity of being human is to manifest new experiences, to create yourself again, over and over and over again, ultimately in service to your highest self and to love and to transcending whatever spiritual curriculum you've been met with. I really want to get this expressed as fully as I can because this is what changes your life. So often in my work, and I've had the deep pleasure of working with all kinds of people in all kinds of setting and lots of big groups. So most of the practices I share on the show, I have used in a very deep way for my own healing journey. And I have used with hundreds to thousands of people at this point. So the things that I'm saying, no disrespect to any other way that we get information, but I didn't just read in a book. So I'm not just regurgitating, oh yeah, they say do this, this, and this. I've lived it and I've lived the pain points of it. And I have seen other people powerfully live these expressions and these transformations over and over and over and over again. So my ear is really, really refined and my eye is really, really refined to when someone is performing healing in a performance of having transcended something, or when someone is just using beautiful language and knowledge and even sometimes very real actions like going to retreats or, saying and posting all the beautiful things, but not actually living it. And I believe that there is no point in doing any of it if you're not actually going to live it. Having performance, relying on perception, it just doesn't do anything for you. Nothing. Other people believing something as true that you don't actually feel or experience inside, it is a waste of your life. It's a waste of your time. And so when we notice that pattern and we do make a choice to change it, you've now opened up your life to limitless potential and possibility. So again, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Y'all know I be talking. Deep breath. If you notice a pattern that is painful for you and you don't like at 25, but you don't change your behavior at 30, at 35, at 40, at 45, at 50, at 60, at 70, at 80, on your deathbed, you will be experiencing the same things in different packages. There is no way around that. And I want to be so specific with you so that you know that you have everything inside of you to do things differently. And if you do it differently and it doesn't give you the outcome you want, do it differently again and keep doing it differently until your true self emerges and until those changes are really able to take root. Now, if you notice a pattern at 25, I don't know why I keep saying 25 because that is young. What the heck do we know at 25? Nothing. It is more challenging. Let's say if you notice that pattern at 30, at 35, whenever, and you make a choice in real time to change your behavior, then everything changes then and there forever. or until you get the next opportunity to review it and try again. So you're moving forward, and then you free up your life. If you don't change the pattern, you live the same thing over and over until you die. If you do change the pattern, you now get to live the remainder of your life as this new version. And that's a curriculum you don't have to repeat. So you'll be able to, in this specific example, we're talking about love, right? Or dating, romance, relationship, something all of us yearn for in the deepest ways in every way of our lives. You'll find that you now get to live out the rest of your decades, potentially exploring other curriculum that you have to get through as well. Life's challenges never cease. But you'll be able to do it from a refined, luminous self-respect and self-love that can never leave you once it's established. And you may find that though there are other things that you're working through in life and other challenges, maybe now the one challenge you don't have is the way you experience love, the way you experience romantic expression, sexual expression, intimacy, love with yourself, love with a child, love with a friend, love with any living being, love with everything. And so now you're free. So whenever I come into a space where I'm looking at, what is the curriculum of my life right now? What am I meant to know right now? I will run directly straight into the darkness every single time it presents itself. Every time. Very gratefully, my first thought and desire is to run to it so I can be through it. I don't want to prolong my suffering, which doesn't mean you have to constantly be working at yourself, but each of us knows at the deepest, most fundamental level when there is something we need to change. We know it. You know it. Whether you choose to do it or not, completely your right, because this is your life. But let's not pretend. Let's not perform. You know what you need to do. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do this. Every person living has things that they've experienced that no one else knows anything about. Every single person living has things and experiences that they wrestle with inside that they may not even acknowledge personally, let alone let anyone else know about. But you know when a shift can be made. And sometimes we reject it, especially if there is a trauma, there is wounds, there are pain points that did not have your consent, especially if you were a child that raised yourself and have always had to do things for yourself, from taking care of your physical body, eating, to figuring out all of life's challenges without guidance. I know, and it is not fair. It is not fair. It is not fair. But you are your only way out. And the sooner we can accept that, even when it's not fair, the sooner we can accept that, the sooner we can change it. The sooner you can meet the real parts of yourself. The sooner you can relax into God. A good friend of mine, Sheila, recently just said those words to me, and it was so beautiful when I heard it. She told me that she is relaxed into God. The sooner you can access your gifts and use them in real time, the sooner you can stop comparing yourself with other people in their journeys, feeling jealousy for other people who may be more expressed or may not, whatever the reasons we biologically feel jealous as humans. But you can start letting go of all of those little frustrations, those pains, those feelings of being unseen, those feelings of unfairness. You actually have the power to do that for yourself. And it doesn't seem as romantic as it looks in the movies. For all of us, that's not our story. It doesn't seem as lovely as it seems in songs and movies and the stories that we've heard, how, one person came along, whether it was a friend or a lover or a parental figure, and they're the ones that taught you how to do this and changed everything. That happens for a few people. But the majority, it's a bigger call and a bigger teaching and a bigger curriculum at play, and you are meant to do it for you, without applause, without validation, without maybe the Instagram likes. But you can do it. You can do it. And you will. When you set the intention for that, you will. And the teachers will appear on your path that can guide you. The right aligned opportunities, the whispers, the symbols, those whispers from God, the symbolism, the books, all of those things start to appear, but it has to begin with you choosing to accept what is present and you having the courage and the willingness to make new and different choices. I only tell you things that I have been in deep, sometimes agonizing practice with for myself over many, 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 many years. And things that I have seen transform clients I've worked with, friends I've done the work with, my own teachers. I know it to be true. So I hope you'll take that in. And for our soul work today, I want to invite everyone to, and maybe we can do this here as long as you're not driving. Please be safe wherever you listen to this show. Just take a deep breath in. And out. Do that a couple more times. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, which all the videos are on YouTube, you might notice that I am placing a hand on my heart, a hand on my core, right where my navel is, really, right in between my solar plexus and my sacral chakras. So I invite you to do the same if that feels comfortable, or you might want to put your hands on the tops of your thighs with palms facing up. You may want to put hands in prayer position or namaste position on your body. And I want you now, as you come inside that beautiful, beautiful sacred space inside of you, I want you to ask yourself internally and aloud, what needs to change for me to be my most loving and expressed self? What can I change in order to be my most loving and expressed self? And then that can lead into I surrender to all the changes that I need to transform. I surrender to all the changes I need to transform. I surrender to all the changes I need to transform. As always, such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for listening. Share this episode with a friend if it resonates. And I'll be back next week. Big love always. Namaste.